and welcome to the Good, the Bad, and the Podcast, the show where we take a given movie genre and we explore those good examples.
Is that on your side? There you go.
There we go. Sorry, guys.
It's all right.
We explore those. I'll restart the intro for those who are watching live. My speakers were on. It's amateur hour. It should be coming through the.
And you've got
Welcome
headphones
to the
on.
Good, the Bad, and the Podcast, the show where we take a given movie genre and we explore those good movies that were clearly written by a clever girl, those bad movies that make you want to bicycle kick the director, and those ugly movies that leave you feeling like your brain has been transplanted into a mechanical dinosaur. Hello, I am Mark.
Hey, I'm Kelly.
And I'm Charles.
May I say, Mark, this was a fantastic set of picks. I can't wait to talk about all these with you. I have a feeling this is going to be my favorite episode in quite a while.
I'm pretty excited about it too, to be honest. And this is going to be a special episode because, as you guys know, last time when Mark announced his picks, one, they were slightly different, and two, I also said that I'd wanted to do dinosaur movies. And so what happened was Mark watched all of his and then, told us about him, and we couldn't find one of the movies, which is a Nymphoid, Barbarian, and Dinosaur Hell. And I even went to Movie Trading Company and asked them, and it's pretty awkward asking that to the guys, like, what are you looking for? Oh, a Nymphoid, Barbarian, and Dinosaur Hell? He's like, okay.
Write it on a piece of paper.
Yeah. But they haven't had it for a while, so we couldn't find it. So then the compromise was that Mark would take a look at my list and pick one of those, and that's what he did. But we are still going to talk about an Nymphoid Barbarian slightly. Mark's going to talk about it a little bit. Yeah. And then there was another movie that came up, and that's the Velocipastor. And I don't know who's watched it here. I think Kelly has, and I've watched it. So we'll talk a little bit about that at the end as well. But yeah, it's kind of a special episode. It's going to be kind of a little bit extended episode because we're doing 5 movies, sort of, and it's a fun topic. I'm really excited about these picks, and I'm really happy you chose Tammy and the T-Rex from my list, Mark.
I couldn't leave my girl Denise Richards hanging after we did the Bond episode. I've always had a affinity for her, even though she's not the greatest actress.
Mark, I thought Christmas only comes once every year.
Yeah. Yeah, now we get twice this year with Tammy and the T-Rex.
September.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, so I gotta say, I still think my conspiracy theory is that I caused the Nymphoid Barbarian movie to be removed from YouTube just by the act of watching it. I think they're like, oh, somebody watched it, let's monetize this or something. I don't know, but because it was free on YouTube and I watched it all, and Charles I think was able to watch 15 minutes and then stopped, and then when he came back it was gone. So
it was not just gone, it was like set to private. It was like weird.
So anyway, you think they want the publicity, but such is life. Yeah, so I picked these because I've always, this is such a iconic movie genre. I feel like we could do 2 more episodes just that feature live action dinosaurs because there's so much out there. I looked into Whoopi Goldberg's, what was it, Theodore Rex.
Yes. Yes.
I kind of wanted that. Well, I shouldn't say we probably won't do it, but I thought maybe it would be ugly because I hadn't seen it for a while, and I watched it. I'm like, man, this is really bad. And I'd already picked my bad pick. So anyway, I'm excited. It'll be good.
And for that, I actually, on this list, I don't know which one's going to be your bad because I feel like there's a clear good one and then there's like 2 ugly ones that were fun for me. So I don't know. We'll see.
Yeah, I agree with you, Charles. I watched so I watched Jurassic Park first. I mean, obviously, like I rewatched it. I had seen it already, but I watched Tammy and the T-Rex next, and I was like, okay, I know for certain which one this is. And then I watched Future War. I was like, wait a second.
Hold on. So, yeah, I agree with that summary because even I kind of second guess myself even. So I'm kind of glad Nymphoid Barbarian wasn't available, because I feel like Tammy made it a little more clear for me. Because I watched Future War a while back and had made my decision about that one, and then I watched Nymphoid, Barbarian, and Dinosaur Hell. And when I went back and watched Future War, I'm like, oh no, there's a little gray area. There's more gray area with these between the bad and the ugly pick. So it'll be fun hashing that out.
Yeah, I'm excited.
So should we say which one we think they are?
Yeah, you want to do guesses?
Yeah. Okay, so I think obviously Jurassic Park has to be good. I think Tammy's going to be ugly and Future War is going to be bad.
Okay.
I agree with that. That's what I think.
All right. We shall see.
Okay.
All right. So you want to get started?
Yeah. So our first pick is going to be Jurassic Park, 1993. The one with the best graphics was the earliest. A pragmatic paleontologist visiting an almost complete theme park is tasked with protecting a couple of kids after a power failure causes the park's cloned dinosaurs to run loose.
All right, and here is the trailer.
Since the beginning of time, man has searched the earth for evidence of its past. But while some have looked for clues to the mystery, one man has found the way to bring the mystery back to life.
I own an island off the coast of Costa Rica, and I've spent the last 5 years setting up a kind of biological preserve.
Here, on this private island, science has defied evolution.
Where do you get 100 million year old dinosaur blood?
Genetics has mastered creation.
We've made living biological attractions so astounding that they'll capture the imagination of the entire planet.
And extinction is a thing of the past.
Welcome to Jurassic Park.
What they got in there, King Kong?
None of these attractions are ready yet, of course, but the park will open with the basic tour you're about to take.
Hey, look at this!
You see something?
Dinosaurs and man. Two species separated by 65 million years of evolution have just been suddenly thrown back into the mix together.
Can I touch it?
Sure.
How can we possibly have the slightest idea
You feel that?
what to expect?
Fences are failing all over the park.
Yeah, that's nice.
Phones are out too.
Gotta go.
Universal Pictures presents
I can't get Jurassic Park back online.
an adventure 65 million years in the making.
Oh
This is just a delay. That's all it is. All major theme parks had delays. When they opened Disneyland in 1956, nothing worked.
But John, if the Pirates of the Caribbean breaks down, the pirates don't eat the tourists.
You sure we're safe?
Yes. I must have figured out how to open doors.
Jurassic Park.
And that was, of course, Jurassic Park, my good pick. The movie that solidified all my childhood memories, fears, and nightmares. What a great iconic movie. Seems so obvious now, but going back and watching it, I mean, I'm sure everybody, has heard a lot about this movie, but going back and watching it, the middle part, like the act 2 of this movie is really a horror film. I'd forgotten how scary it really is with the T-Rex, and then especially with the Wayne Knight scene, the guy who played Newman in Seinfeld, where he's attacked by the fin dinosaur. Those are really horrifying scenes, the way Spielberg shot it and the camera movements. And I mean, just of course, when this movie came out, it was huge. And still holds up today. Some of the graphics were a little bit, I think, with the HD stuff now, you can kind of see, it's they're really, really good, but I could pick up a little bit of CGI where they've kind of smoothed that out since the last 20 years.
Yeah.
But
no, nearly
man,
30 years.
30, yeah.
Yeah, nearly.
I just don't want it to be that. I don't want it to have been that long. So
yeah.
I'm just going to say 20 still. So what do we all think?
I love this movie. This is a great movie. It's also kind of funny because when when I was searching for my picks for a dinosaur movie, it's the obvious one, right? But what's crazy is I can't think of other good dinosaur movies.
Mm-hmm.
Like the sequels, especially. Like I know Jurassic World, maybe Jurassic World was okay to me, but like the Lost World was pretty bad, and I hated Jurassic Park 3. But yeah, I mean, really, can you guys, like, is there another, if you couldn't do the Jurassic Park, what would be your second choice for good?
Yeah,
it's a good question. It's tough. I mean, Land of the Lost, maybe with Will Ferrell.
Yeah.
It would have to be.
I mean, maybe if you count like the original King Kong as a dinosaur movie, but I don't know if that
yeah,
really
I mean,
counts.
and if we are not including CGI, like animation, so because my picks originally were just clarified as live action, that at least had live action actors and some practical dinosaur effects. So with that in mind, it is really hard to think of some. I'm sure there are some out there, but I didn't really come across them when I was researching. I mean, I was kind of looking more for terrible and ugly movies in my research.
Yeah, because Jurassic Park, like I said, it's the clear one.
I already knew Jurassic Park.
But the other thing is too, it's like it doesn't feel like a 90s movie. It doesn't feel dated, and there's almost nothing in the movie that dates it. Like you said, the CG maybe a little polished around the edges, but you also said that it looks better than a lot of the sequels did. Like somehow the effects hold up more, and I think that had to do with how Spielberg decided to shoot it. Topher and I've talked about this. There was a rule he had where it couldn't be so close to the camera if it was going to be CG, like within 30 feet or 15 feet or whatever it was. But if it was going to be that close within that range, it had to be an animatronic, and it had to be super realistic. And they had Stan Winston doing those, and Phil Tippett, and Dennis Muren did all the CG. But it just blends so well. Like it's hard to tell. Especially with the T-Rex, when it becomes CG versus the animatronic, they cut it so well, so seamlessly. And like I said, there's nothing in the movie that screams 90s to me. I mean, not the hairstyles, not the clothes, not the dialogue. The camera movement's awesome. The only thing that maybe would be like the computer stations and when Lexi's messing with the computer at the end. But even that looks pretty cool. Like it's still a visual thing. So I think he made a really timeless movie out of this. And on top of that, he made Lexi be the smart one. She's she's scared of the dinosaurs, but she's also into computers. So it's kind of a progressive thing where you have a young female lead. I mean, not the lead necessarily, but you have a young female that's very important, very smart in the movie. And then you have a paleontologist, a female, doctor in there. That's they even had that line about woman inherits the earth.
Yeah,
so I thought there was a lot of cool things that were way ahead of their time that make this movie feel more current than it is. It's really amazing to me when I think about it.
And it just occurred to me there's a lot of gender symbolism too with obviously they made all of the dinosaurs female so they wouldn't breed. However, when they're landing the helicopter, I don't know if you know this, when Dr. Grant doesn't have the seatbelt, the correct seatbelt, you'll notice it's two female parts, right? If you have the male female that clicks in. And so he has to end up making it work and tie it together with two female parts, like the dinosaurs make it work later on in the movie with their DNA.
And there's also the thing where John Hammond is he's not sure that a woman can go do it, and she even kind of corrects him. Like, look, we can talk about that later. So there, like I said, there's a lot of cool stuff in the movie like that, and I've read the book, and there's I haven't read it in a while, but there's quite a few changes. And I think some of them were for the better. In the book, John Hammond is more evil, and he dies in the book. I like the changes that Spielberg made to his character a lot, because even though he causes this, and he's not like a typical rich villain in it. He's much more sympathetic, and especially that scene where he's talking about the flea circus. You really kind of understand where he's coming from, and I love that scene, by the way. Because overall the movie has, I think I read it only has like 15 minutes worth of dinosaurs in it, and yet it doesn't feel that way at all. So it's brilliant. I could talk about it all day. It's one of my absolute favorite movies. So So I'll pass it back to Kelly or Mark. But yeah, I don't want to talk over you guys.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it does feel dated like a tiny bit with so much of the hacker type stuff, like oh, I'm a hacker, oh, I can, her burgeoning hackerness felt like a very 90s thing. Yeah. And then Newman and all his fail safes and little hacker traps and stuff on the computer, that felt very of its time to me. But aside from that, that's really the only thing that I can think of. Yeah, it's a great movie. I remember playing the score to it in orchestra in middle school, and it was, it just, as soon as you hear it, it just takes you back. It's a great piece of music. Yeah, it does stand the test of time. I agree with all that you guys have said.
It's funny you mentioned the music too. I played it on the piano for a school talent show as well, and my dad and I made a dinosaur costume, like a paper mache head that I could wear, and it was silly. I walked out and played the song, but John Williams is always, I'm so bad about, I just always consider John Williams like the one trick pony that did Star Wars, and then it's like obviously the opposite of that, right? Like he did Harry Potter, he's done so many iconic things, and Jurassic Park theme song is amazing.
And I think Meowington played the theme song from it in the Cats one. That was pretty cool, yeah.
So I was going to say, I feel like there's no weak parts to this movie. There's no weak link in this movie at all. I love the Newman character. I love the kids. I love what would you call him? The tracker, the head of security.
Yeah.
The clever girl guy. His character arc is really cool. And I like how they brought in where Dr. Grant's talking about how they must have hunted. And then that's how they end up hunting the other guy. It's just so good. Oh, there are two.
Yeah, I love it when movies do that awesome foreshadowing stuff they do. Like this movie does it so well. It sets up that scene, and you know exactly what happens when he looks up at her clever girl. I love that.
So great. There are two weird inconsistencies with this movie, or not inconsistency, maybe loopholes. So it's weird. The first T-Rex scene is weird because the T-Rex is standing on like ground level. And comes through the fence. And then as he's knocking all the cars and the people over the ledge is somehow like a cliff ledge that falls way, way down. And like I always thought it was the other side of the road, but it's not. Like if you watch closely, like the car gets knocked over into the T-Rex enclosure. And it ends up somehow there's like a 2 or 3 story drop where the car falls. It's like, how did the T-Rex get out of the enclosure? If it was that high up.
Interesting. I'll have to look at that again.
Yeah, if you go back and look, because I remember somebody mentioning, I was like, no, they fell over the other side. It was a ledge on the other side of the T, but it's not. You can like clearly see he moves the car toward the torn fence that he just went through, because that's what they grab onto, the cables from the fence he tears down. And then the second thing at the very end, somebody pointed out to me once, they somehow don't hear or see the T-Rex coming inside of the atrium.
That does well, so I don't know if you know the story behind that, but that wasn't the original ending. And so the original ending, that skeleton T-Rex, some of the bones were going to fall apart and Pierce kill some of the raptors. But it wasn't working. I don't know why Spielberg was like, no, T-Rex is the star. We got to bring him back one more time. So, and they even broke their rule about the CG. That in that sequence, the T-Rex does get closer to the camera, but that's why Spielberg pushed for that. And so he also, a side note, he pushed for the raptors to be the size they were. I think they're about 10 feet or so in the movie, whereas prior to this movie, raptors were considered much smaller. What's funny is that right before the movie was released, they found dinosaur bones of a raptor that were actually 10 feet tall. So his change actually ended up being scientifically accurate.
Wow.
Even if they're not accurate on their skin, because I think they believe now they would have had feathers or some sort of more bird-like things. And the T-Rex, obviously, its vision is not based on movement. But yeah, I mean, it's kind of cool, like the small stuff. But Spielberg wanted that ending like that. It is kind of goofy. I agree. It makes no sense. But I love it. I love it, and I cheer on.
It does make for a much more dramatic climax than being pierced by dinosaur bones.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, he was able to see that the T-Rex was the star. So.
Cool.
Even Samuel L. Jackson, I like his little few moments. He's just like such a more serious character in this than he typically is. He tends to be just a little more, I don't know, a little wittier, jauntier, or something. But in this, I love his line, "Hold on to your butts," and it comes through a couple times, and it just.
I use that all the time.
With that loose cigarette just hanging off of his lip a little bit. I love just love the imagery of that. I did think when you see his severed hand drop on her shoulder, I that part confused me when I was a kid because it looked more muscular than Samuel L. Jackson's character. So I thought it was somebody else, and I didn't get that he like originally. But that's getting pretty nitpicky on my part.
Yeah.
You didn't get the musculature exactly right on the severed arm prop.
But even that severed arm is much more, to your point about something you'd see in a horror film. I like that. I dig I really like what Spielberg did with it. It's just an amazing film all around.
So did you catch, just to tie a little bow on this, did you catch the lawyer's line? Like, there are two things about the lawyer's part that I had never caught before. He says, I think he says autoerotica when he's asking if the scientists are like robots, but he doesn't say automaton. He says autoerotica, which I think was just like a little.
Well, they're trying to figure out how to say it, right? He just kind of says that line.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so I caught me off guard. I was like, wait, did he just say that? And then when he runs away from the kids into the bathrooms, right? He's fully clothed, right? And then when the thing gets knocked down, it looks like he's in his boxers sitting on the toilet.
Well, I always wondered if he actually took off his pants. I don't know.
So did he actually go to the bathroom? I didn't understand it. Like,
I've always kind of thought that. Yeah, I wasn't sure. And
it's like a weird joke.
Speaking of that sequence, though, like it does kind of bother me, and I noticed it this last time when I watched it that the T-Rex throws that piece of the the goat or whatever on the car, and you can see it clearly. Like they look up and they can kind of see it munching, right? And then he runs out of the car. But then Alan Grant and Ian Malcolm are in their car, and they don't seem to have noticed any of that. They're just like, where do you think he's going? It's like, wouldn't they have just seen the T-Rex? It was right there, throwing pieces of goat. I don't know that sequence in itself is a little weird to me, but
I did think about that but they show the T-Rex like kind of concealed by the trees. You can just see his head rise above it, so maybe they didn't catch that.
Maybe I give him that, but
yeah.
I mean,
think they would see the turkey leg fly
even all of that, even with the like you said with the cliff and all that, I still love it. Yeah, it's an amazing sequence and very tense. And I remember watching it in theaters, and it was just crazy. So
I think I saw it in theaters as well. I'm pretty sure I did because I remember I was in elementary school, and I remember some kid not being allowed to go see it. I was like, it's not that bad. And then the kid started listing off all the things that his parents were like, there's this. Like, oh yeah, I guess it is pretty gory for whatever.
Well, and it's like we were talking about the sequels just aren't nearly as good. And the Jurassic Park 3 is probably my least favorite, just because at the end of this one, it seems like Alan Grant has kind of learned a life lesson. He's kind of bonded with the kids, changed his ways, and then so he and Ellie are gonna get married, and then okay, great, they're gonna have kids, and then by Jurassic Park 3, she's married to someone else, he's not, and it's like, what happened in that gap? So they're gonna be in the new movie, and
really?
The new Jurassic World movie coming out. They're shooting it now. In fact, yeah, it's Ian Malcolm, Alan Grant, and her name's, is it Ellie? It's right. Is that right?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
At least I don't know, but yeah, I can't think of her last name. But yeah, so she, but it's gonna be all Laura Dern's coming back too. So I'm really excited. I'm hoping they can maybe right the wrong of Jurassic Park 3 and put them back as a couple.
That would be cool. It did. I was always disappointed that they weren't married. It was like they did all that legwork,
right,
in the first movie, setting that up, and then no. Alrighty. Well, that's unfortunately we should move on to our next two picks. The first one being Tammy and the T-Rex, 1994. An evil scientist implants the brain of Michael, a murdered high school student, into a Tyrannosaurus. He escapes, wreaks vengeance on his high school tormentors, and is reunited with his sweetheart, Tammy.
All right, and here's the trailer.
Because why not?
Everything in Tammy's life is just great. But when you're young and in love, life can get very complicated, especially when it involves an insanely jealous creep.
That's my lady, all right?
Late night phone calls.
I want you to come over. Yes!
Sneaking around in your own house.
Did you lock the door?
Don't worry.
Your boyfriend getting dumped in a wild animal park. And a crazy doctor.
Well, that's it.
Who turns out to be a mad scientist.
And if you're going to make an omelet, you have to break a few eggs, right?
With an insane invention that only needs a brain. But this Tyrannosaurus Rex just wants to be a party animal. Even when you tell the truth, nobody believes it anymore.
It was a dinosaur.
What? It's more than a machine with a brain. I mean, it is a machine with feelings. We are on the brink of something special. We are going to be immortalized.
Is that really you in there? Oh, Michael, what have they done to you?
Oh, you poor thing. You gone crazy.
Byron, I am not going crazy. This is just a little hard to explain.
That's my dinosaur! We found the dinosaur, Sheriff. It's in a truck being driven by your son.
Byron?
Yes, sir. See, a couple of folks back at the hospital, they say he stole it.
Stole what?
The dinosaur.
Oh, Jesus.
That is my dinosaur that you are threatening. I made him and he is mine.
What are we going to do?
I will give you immortality.
Not if Tammy has anything to say about it. Tammy and the T-Rex.
And we apologize for making you listen to that or watch that trailer for Tammy and the T-Rex. So even in so just to start, in the credits and in the end credits, I was talking with Charles about this the other day, they spell it Tanny with 2 N's instead of 2 M's.
Well,
I don't know if it was just a weird font or what, but
no,
like, what the heck?
We should backtrack though a little bit because, well, first of all, what is this your pick? Is this your ugly or bad?
This is my ugly. You guys are right.
Yes.
So this would have also been my ugly, but part of the reason I wanted to do dinosaur movies in the first place was because of this movie. So this movie's from '94 originally, but right before it was released, the producers decided to recut it into a kid-friendly movie, and they thought that it was kind of presumed that the original cut of it was lost. Even the director thought it was lost. But in like 2017 or 2018, they found it. There was a film print of it. So this company, Vinegar Syndrome, I believe is the name of it, they restored it. They made a 4K HD version of it. And it's the original gore cut. And it's super violent, a lot of language, very R-rated. And so it's great. But the reason I bring all that up is because in the original PG-13 cut, they spell Tammy right. They use a shot of her riding the dinosaur, and they have Tammy and the T-Rex in bright, colorful, kid-friendly letters. And in the gore cut, the R cut that we watched, it's misspelled. And big letters, like big yellow letters right at the beginning. It's pretty hard to miss.
Yeah.
But I believe it was always, in the credits, it was always spelled Tanny in both versions, T-A-N-N-Y. I have no idea. Okay. That's just... it adds to it, though.
Oh man, what a romp this movie is.
what a romp indeed.
The basic premise is evil scientist finally gets his hands on this mechanical T-Rex, and Paul Walker's character gets mauled by lions in the forest for some reason. I guess they needed a reason. You know, all that connected plot from Jurassic Park we talked about. None of that here. He's mauled by dinosaurs, and
he's like totally without a scratch, by the way.
Yeah, they like bust into the hospital room and explain away his body and like take his brain out and put it in the mechanical T-Rex, and so he goes on a rampage seeking vengeance. And then the only other part you need to know is Denise Richards is kind of his new girlfriend, but she doesn't want to date him because she's afraid her ex-boyfriend's gonna hurt him, and he's like a kind of a ruffian drug dealer or whatever, rough guy that got kicked out of school. And so of course he gets killed by the dinosaur as well, and they're trying to find Paul Walker body, a new body, and there's like a scene in the morgue where the T-Rex is like looking over the wall as they like lift all these dead bodies up for him to look at and shake his head no. And, oh man. I will give it this though. I was impressed by the somewhat realistic movements of the arms of the T-Rex. Like I was surprised with what they were able to actually do with the arms.
Like when it was doing charades.
I expected it. What's that?
Like when it was
the charades was pretty good. He did a couple things like lifting things and putting things places where I was like, okay, all right, I could tell you had to work at that and maybe try to get that to work instead of it just being a rubber arm and dropping something.
But then there were also a lot of like crafty editing cuts where you'd like see the full dinosaur with the arm, and then it would cut to Tammy's face, and then you'd like see a claw caress the side of her cheek, and then it would cut back to the whole body, and the arm is like 3 feet away. It's like, it was not anatomically possible for
that's great. And that's why this is my ugly pick. That's just all that stuff. Like I could watch this movie 3 more times with friends and still laugh about it.
Oh yeah, it cracks me up every time. Well, and part of it too is that these ugly movies tend to walk a fine line for me, right? Like they either, if they fully embrace their concept and like, they just go with it, they know it's nuts, versus they can also not know they're bad, and that makes a great ugly movie too. This one is somewhere in the middle because I feel like they really ran with the concept, but it also felt like they didn't quite know as wacky, know it was as wacky as it actually was. They were right in the middle, and I think that's what makes it so great. Like, it's just wacky enough, but it's great. I love the villain. I love the main bad guy. My favorite. I love it when he walks in the hospital as a doctor and he's smoking a cigarette, talking. He just cracks me up. He's the actor that played Bernie in Weekend at Bernie's. If you guys didn't know.
Oh, nice.
But, yeah, I love this movie. It's a lot of fun. What's that?
Take you back to Magnificent Obsession, Charles?
Yes.
Smoking in the hospital.
Yes. I love that sequence. He just hops on. It's like live. But
I love it. Sorry, go ahead, Charles.
No, I was just gonna say I love the bad guy. I love all the scenes. This whole movie just makes me laugh the entire way through. It really does. It's absurd, but it's great.
Yeah, I would have to agree. There's some great one-liners, such as, for instance, I wrote them down. Allow me to read them to you.
Please regale us.
That ain't no flag, Sheriff. That's a brassiere. Also, hang on to your boobs, girl. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
And she actually grabs her boobs.
Was that Byron?
And
so
we
haven't mentioned
Byron.
the sassy black friend Byron, who is the best part of this movie.
Do you think so?
And
dressed in like full regalia.
Yes, I can't imagine he was even in the kid-friendly cut because nothing he says is appropriate at all. He's great. Do you have any more, Kelly?
No, those were my 2 favorite quotes. But there's just so many things about this movie. Like one other thing that really got me was when they were at the lab and that other miscellaneous henchman or whoever it was gets completely flattened
like a pancake.
Like curled up on this, like to where you'd have to smush him down and they'd like drag him back into the warehouse to do who knows what. And
the gore scenes were pretty graphically, I don't know, good. Like there was a lot of goop and there was a lot of blood and a lot of they brought in a lot of stuff to make those work.
They did, for sure, especially the one where the kid gets sliced with the talon and his guts just completely fall out.
It's really violent. It's really violent movie.
It is really violent, but not like Jurassic Park. It's really about like, oh, that's funny. It's so violent,
right? And
there was one that seemed a little like you could tell. I forget what scene it was, but you could tell the guy had like a big thing on his chest and stomach. I don't think it was the scene you're talking about though, because I remember that looking good. But there's another one where you could tell he had like his body didn't look like correct. It looked like there was extra bulk there from whatever they used for the practical effect.
I like the surgery, the actual brain surgery they did. That was pretty gory too.
They just stapled the scalp back on with a staple gun.
Yeah, he's gonna put it back in the morgue. No problem. No one's gonna notice.
Yeah.
So go ahead. Sorry, Kelly. Go ahead.
One of my favorite things, I can't believe this hasn't come up yet, was the eating of the rose.
Yes, that's what I was about to mention.
In the beginning, so Paul Walker is courting Denise Richards, and their love is so sweet and so pure, and he offers her this yellow rose, and then he just eats the petals off of it. And in the moment, you're like, that's a pretty weird thing to do. And later on, it comes up because once his brain has been implanted into the T-Rex, he's using that as a way to try to let her know non-verbally that he is who he is. And so he finds a rose, and he again like does charades, mimes it, puts it in his mouth, and she's like, "Oh, it's you!" I'm like, did you? Of all the clearly that was included in the beginning just for this moment, but couldn't they have picked something that was a little less of a just random? I don't know.
Yeah. That this movie really started off with a good pace, because you think maybe it wouldn't be good till they get to the dinosaur part. No, it was like him eating a rose to court her, and she's like, "You're so weird. I love you because you eat roses." Like, what is that? No, nobody ever courted somebody like that. And then the ex-boyfriend shows up, and there's a fight, and then the fight ends up they're grabbing each other by the crotch and twisting each other's crotches.
Okay, I have a question about that though, because at the end, the punchline to that is that Paul Walker tells the officer that he's wearing a cup.
Yeah.
Okay, so what was the other guy grabbing? If he's wearing a cup, there's nothing to grab.
Yeah. Right.
It makes no sense to me.
But then the Kelly's this is so great. We're I'm tearing up as well, Kelly. The two deputies, the one you quoted earlier, one of the deputies we got ourselves a testicular standoff, but he said it as if it was a normal thing, we got another one of these testicular standoffs. What? Oh no.
Classic Tuesday.
It's ridiculous.
Oh
man.
You talk about all the goop and all that, we're talking about gore, but one of the things that cracked me up was when the dinosaur was at his funeral and he starts crying. It's so stupid, but it made me crack up. And how does no one see this giant dinosaur from hiding behind a tree watching the funeral?
And it's just a river of tears.
Yes, it is. It's beautiful. It's nice. I like it.
Oh god. No, to their credit, it was a pretty impressive mechanical T-Rex. It was a full scale, when they had the girl dangling upside down from the party scene. I'm like, that's they actually have this really impressive piece of mechanical.
Well, IMDb says that basically the director, and he's the director that did Mac and Me, if you've seen that. But basically, one of his friends or someone, they were moving this mechanical dinosaur to some amusement park, I think in Texas, and the friend was like, "Okay, I had this for a few weeks. Can you make a movie around it?" And he did, and he was riding it. They were riding it so fast, trying to ride it as they were going along. So
really, you couldn't tell. You wouldn't have known. It was written in weeks and put together. Well, it's funny you mentioned that, because I was looking at the dates. It's okay, Jurassic Park was 93. This came out in 94, so it even felt like a rushed what's cash grab for the dinosaur genre.
But I mean, the effects are almost as good as Jurassic Park's, even though a year later. The few I don't even know, are they animatronic? Are they animated? What the few shots of the dinosaur moving are so bad.
I like too how whenever you see the dinosaur and it's a close up of the face, he always has the same expression. He's always like his mouth is slightly open as if he's listening intently.
Yeah.
It's Paul Walker in there.
That was the binary. That was the other binary. It was either normal or upturned lip.
Yeah.
Oh man.
Neutral or full of rage.
And then we haven't even talked about the ending, what the last little sequence.
Oh, yeah.
Well, my problem with the ending, just before we get into the striptease, is that there was no resolution. The brain was still sitting there in a little pool of chemicals. Oh, we'll find you a body at some point, and then it ended with.
Well, but she said that they made that offhand remark about, was it the skiers that were frozen? She implied that there were some bodies they were going to try to find and put him in. But at the end he's just a brain. Like the T-Rex gets all shot up as if it's a real thing and not a mechanical machine, and then and then they put the brain in, and she's got like a video camera on it, and the brain's a little platform. And she did a striptease for it.
Yeah, she did. That's why it's hard to imagine this was ever cut for kids. Like, I can't imagine the footage they had.
Well, I mean, I think it was PG-13, but it was still, like, if you listen to that trailer, it was very much intended for a younger audience. Like, it's like a happy music and a happy narrator, and like I said, big, bright, colorful letters for the name.
It reminded me a little, the mood of this reminded me a little bit of the humor from the Hulk Hogan Santa Claus movie. Just that those weird villains that were kind of over the top.
Yeah. That's a good parallel. I didn't draw that.
Okay.
I wondered during that scene where the voice was coming out of, because his brain is just simmering in the liquid, and he's like, do this, do that, and it's just like, is the voice supposed to be coming out of the brain, or is it there's a camera somewhere? Like, I don't know. Didn't get that.
You're pulling at these threads, Kelly. Don't pull at those threads now.
That's true. I am, but
maybe there are speakers in the camera.
Maybe. So you're okay with the brain just sitting out there, but the voice, it can't be separate.
What did she pour over the brain? She like poured alcohol, or was it coffee? Or
I think it was alcohol. Didn't she give him a shot, like to get him drunk?
Yeah.
To pour it over the brain, I guess, which I guess would work if it's soaked in through the. You think it would kill him instantly if there's that much alcohol with that small amount of tissue? I think it would like destroy the blood on contact. Like, it's got to be like, what, 5% of your body mass, your brain? You just put a whole shot of alcohol.
There's no blood-brain barrier. It's not protecting it in that case. I don't know. It's just
you guys are pulling at the threads.
Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. Let's stop. Okay. All right. Okay. Let's jump 3 years into the future, 1997. We're gonna bring you Future War. It's a very short synopsis. I apologize. A runaway human slave from Earth's future escapes to the present.
Okay, here's the trailer.
All right.
4 days ago, a fire fell from the sky, and it brought a man who would change my life forever. For all the questions I had about the heavens, all it brought was hell on earth.
What's there not to believe? A race of transplanted humans bred on another planet. One of them escapes, returns to his ancestral world, and these dinosaurs and their masters are here to bring him back. Personally, I think he's nuts.
I've seen these dinosaurs, Doctor. They're real. Maybe his story is real, too.
And there you have Future War, the movie explicitly designed to give this guy the career of Jean-Claude Van Damme, because he looks very similar to him and does similar things as him. That's my only takeaway from this movie.
Well, that and I watched it with Toby, and like he read something about how the 99% of the budget must have been spent on empty cardboard boxes.
Yes. That was my favorite. That's when I knew it was going to be like this was a bad movie. And the Nymphoid movie did this similarly, is that there's very little dialogue. There's like silence and sound effects without really much music, and then just fight scenes and not a lot of actual talking. And so there were funny kind of ugly parts to it, but it just wasn't as fun to watch. I was just kind of bored, and it was easy to ignore this movie. But there is that scene. So early on, he comes from the future and is chased by dinosaur trackers. But there are also cyborgs for some reason that rule over the dinosaurs. I assume
they're their owners, right? Didn't they mention like the dinosaurs are their pets or something? I don't know.
Yeah, the dinosaurs are they're basically like their hunting dogs. So like the bloodhounds tracking the guy down. And they consider Earth heaven. Like they consider the Earth of the past to be heaven. And so, but anyway, there's this fight scene where they're supposed to be at this warehouse, and it's literally just empty cardboard boxes stacked, 10 feet high. And they, the fight scene, they kind of bust through some of these boxes dramatically, but everybody watching is just wondering, why are there all these empty boxes stacked on top of each other? Why aren't they folded until they're needed? And we can tell they're very light and empty.
You mentioned Jean-Claude Van Damme, but it's also, the villain is a kind of like Terminator. Like it's a total ripoff of that.
Yeah.
So.
And the leading actress is a 50 Cent version of Robin Wright Penn.
Yes. Yeah, it looks exactly like her.
It's very strange.
Okay. She's supposed to be a reformed nun. She's a nun who used to be like a drug addict, and so she knows all these people from the streets. She has to end up bringing them in to help fight.
That brings up, though, when you and I were talking about the movie and the ending in particular, what was it you thought the ending was, Mark? Because I think we disagreed about it, I think. Or at least I didn't remember it your way.
No, I think I'm wrong, because I've seen it twice, and that's kind of a shocking statement, because who would watch this twice? But at the end, so they make it seem like he dies, but apparently not. So because at the end you see this clipping of a newspaper article with his face, and he says something about him becoming a guidance counselor. And then you hear this woman's voice calling into a helpline, and it's his voice responding to her. So when I saw it, I thought that was her voice, the main actor, the nun's voice, calling in for help. So I thought they were doing like a time loop thing where he somehow went back into the past again, and he's the one who helped her become a nun so that she could then find him and help him, right? Like, so I thought they were doing something really complex there. But then, which doesn't make much sense based on the rest of the movie, but at least I was like, oh, that's kind of a weird twist. But then Charles and Toby were like, oh, I think it's just somebody calling in for help, and it's just some other girl, which I think it is. I think that's what actually happened.
That's what I thought too. That's the way I interpreted it, but I like your interpretation so much more. And it kind of, you can read that into it. I mean, you could be right. We don't know. I'm just going to pretend that you are.
Yeah, it gives the movie a lot more credit than it probably deserves. But yeah.
What was the quote Toby kept saying?
At the very end, the lady at the end, she says, everything he wanted was everything I needed. Something like that.
No sense.
I may have that backwards. Maybe everything he needed was everything I wanted, but I think it's everything he wanted was everything I needed. It's nice romantic
which makes
line.
Equally as little sense.
Love means never having to say you're sorry.
We need to talk about Fred too. Poor Fred. He was the most interesting character. He's the friend of the nun, and he's like this big guy. At one point he's sitting at the kitchen table when they just met the Jean-Claude Van Damme wannabe, and he can't quite talk yet, and he's like, words. But Fred has like a pipe at the table for no, like, he never smokes it. He just happens to have a pipe in one of the scenes, and that's all we see of him. And they do the in media res where we see him die at the beginning of the movie, and then they go back in time and tell the story leading up to his death. Mm-hmm. So there's all that dramatic irony knowing Fred's going to perish.
Indeed. Dramatic irony. This whole movie, I had several flashbacks while I was watching this. The first was to the horrible 1994 version of the Fantastic Four, in the sense that like it's a fairly, this was made in 1997, and when you think about the fact that it was made 4 years after Jurassic Park, like we've been saying, and the graphics are infinity times worse, and it's just it's a low budget movie, and it feels low budget, unlike successful movies that have been made on low budgets that do a lot with what they have. But just the cojones on the people who designed this movie, they were like, we have no money to make this, but let's make it about dinosaurs and space and future concepts, and let's just figure out how to make that work. It's like, I don't know why they ever thought they could pull that off. And I thought they were going to lean more heavily on the space aspect after watching the first part of the movie, and I was glad that they did not. But
it would have been fun to watch them try.
It would have, actually, yeah.
Like the ship they built they showed the hatch opening. That was pretty convincing. Like, you could tell they put a lot of some time into that, but everything after that was like, the dinosaurs were sometimes small, but sometimes made to look like they were life size, right? But you could tell it was the same actual dinosaur.
Yeah, I couldn't figure that out. How big are they supposed to be?
Right. Because he's literally, he has one by the neck and is punching a T-Rex that's this size. If you can see, just the size, smaller than him, and he's holding it, the whole T-Rex. But then later, they're made to look like there are some that are 7-8 feet tall.
Yeah.
Anyway, so bad.
It was. It definitely had as well as Fantastic Four. It had a Time Chasers vibe to me. Something about it.
Yeah, it did a little bit. I like Time Chasers more, but
yeah, I do too. And I would have called this ugly if like we said before. I mean, I think I would have called this and Tammy both ugly. Obviously, Tammy is a little bit more fun, more ugly, but this one, I do also see your point, Mark, about how there were scenes of ugliness and hilarity punctuated by long scenes of just walking through a warehouse and, no, like you said, no dialogue. It was just, very strange. But then something would happen, like he would do like his his meditation taekwondo inside the jail cell without his shirt on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. I looked away for a split second when they were attacked in the church, and I looked back and his shirt had come off. I was like, wait, I missed it. When did the shirt come off? He must have just ripped it off, I guess.
Yeah.
They use that door squeak sound effect that I think it's in Goldeneye at one point too. It's like the classic creaky door. But they use it 4 or 5 times throughout the movie, and it just kept distracting me every time I heard it. Because there's that stupid door squeak sound effect on a different door. At one point, it was just like a door into her room that was not a rusty metal door, which is. she had a scrapbook that she was looking through of her past, but it was all the worst things that you wouldn't normally take pictures of, right? It's her doing drugs and her it's wait, why do you have a scrapbook of this?
The same thing.
This is the worst character development shoehorned into a scrapbook.
That's so true.
And then they bring in the gang members that we've never met before that she knows from the street, 60% of the way into the movie. I need your help, guys.
Yeah, they just randomly drive up and they're able to get her a gun and all that stuff. It's pretty awesome.
Very convenient.
Yeah.
Future war.
All right, so do you want to talk about a Nymphoid Barbarian in Dinosaur Hell?
Yeah, so Nymphoid Barbarian in Dinosaur Hell, to use the full title, is a movie about post-apocalyptic landscape. We've evolved to be barbarians again, and there's this. So Nymphoid, it makes it sound like nymphomaniac, or it's somehow a lot more sexually explicit than it really is. But I think it just means a young woman who's come of age, and she's with her.
Synopsis? Because I have the trailer. If you want to do that too.
Oh yeah, let's do that. I didn't pull the synopsis because I didn't think about it for this one, but I can real quick as I'm talking about it. So she's with her boyfriend, and so the thing I liked about this movie is that I thought I was watching, I was like, oh man, this is another bad pick. But then something would happen. I'd be like, oh yeah, you got me back on board the ugly trade. So let's watch the trailer, and we'll. All right, I'll give you some of those little snippets. But the synopsis is.
Oh, go ahead.
Oh yeah, it's synopsis. In a post-Armageddon world, a young woman finds herself in a fight for survival against mutant cavemen, dinosaurs, and other prehistoric animals.
Way back beyond the future, in a land before time began, The day after has become the day before. The Tromaville of the future has become a dinosaur hell. In this dinosaur hell, there is only one type of being that can survive: a barbarian. And what kind of barbarian? Why, a Nymphoid barbarian. A Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. Across a hostile landscape, humans battle for supremacy against mutants. Deadly dinosaurs have arisen from nuclear holocaust, and all of them are hot for a Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. Yes, for the first time ever, the prehistoric meets the prepubescent. She's the last womanoid in the Tromaville of tomorrow, and she's wanted by men and mutant alike. She's a Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. Starring international cult heroine Linda Corwin as the Nymphoid barbarian. Not since Raquel Welch in 1 million years BC has one woman had to face such a fearsome collection of rabid reptiles. You've seen the Brontosaurus, the Tyrannosaurus, but you won't believe your eyes when you come face to face with the Tromosaurus. Only the Troma team could bring you the incredible state-of-the-art special effects from internationally acclaimed effects wizards Brett Piper and Alex Perney, the masterminds behind a Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. You'll swear you are watching the real thing. A Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. Primitive, brutal, horrifying, lust-crazed inhuman monsters, all battling over one beautiful, seductive, tantalizing prize. A Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. She's the heroine every woman wants to be. The courage of a lioness, the hunting skills of an Amazon, and all the beauty of a fine young Nymphoid. Only one man will possess the ultimate weapon. But no man can ever possess a Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. You must see a Nymphoid barbarian in dinosaur hell. The prehistoric and the prepubescent together at last.
So there you have it. That trailer should give you a little bit of an idea about what the movie was like. So this movie did it even more, where the characters could all speak and they spoke English, but there was almost no dialogue for the first 20 or 30 minutes. And I read the IMDb trivia that said he had, I guess a producer had told him, like, cut the dialogue and just give us action. And then later on he submitted the film, and the producer was like, why isn't there any talking? You need more dialogue. But something like the scenes would kind of draw out, and then at one point there was like this little kid. It was clearly this kid, but he was in like a barbarian costume, so it was like he was supposed to be playing like a midget type character, and he was being hunted by the bad guys' lackeys, and they kind of tackle him, and I thought, oh, that's kind of horrible. It's this poor little helpless creature that's attacked, and then they literally rip off his arm and he starts eating it like a turkey leg. The main bad guy, like, oh my gosh, you have, like, now you've got my attention again. And there's a lot of cool, like, I couldn't tell if it was stop action or claymation, but there's a lot of cool effects with the actual dinosaurs, and they did a lot of, they actually thought through some of the scenes and the cut scenes of how they would of how to make that seem natural. There was like a worm coming out of the ground at one point. And so they would bring some of those elements in right as I was kind of losing interest.
Well, it's a Troma movie. I mean, you kind of know you kind of know what to expect from Troma movies if you watch any of those. So I want to try and catch it someday. I really do want to try and watch it. As I say, I when I looked it up, I could not believe this is from 1990. It looks so much older. I assume this is one of the older Troma movies.
Yeah, but
no, 90.
Yeah, the director did other stuff like Queen Crab. Looks like he does a lot of sci-fi channel type movies. Brett Piper.
Yeah.
What were you saying, Kelly?
Oh, I don't even know. It already has left my mind. It looks interesting. I watching the trailer, I was intrigued by the graphics, by everything. So yeah, Charles, if you ever do find a copy of it somewhere, let me know.
Yeah, we'll figure it out. Do you want to? The other one we mentioned we might talk about the Velocipastor. Are you ready to move on to that, Mark?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is one that I had considered for one of my picks when I was trying to do it, and I do have the trailer for that one as well. Let me look up the synopsis.
I've got the synopsis.
Oh, go ahead then.
It really is it's a good one. After losing his parents, a priest travels to China where he inherits a mysterious ability that allows him to turn into a dinosaur. At first horrified by his new power, a hooker convinces him to use it to fight crime and ninjas.
Here we go.
The and ninjas is that final little sprinkle on top. That's so good.
They followed me home. The Velocipastor. A troubled priest.
How long has it been since your last confession?
Oh, it's been about 2 years. I do drugs, sell drugs, murder people. The Velocipastor. A beautiful girl with a dark past.
Last night was amazing.
What are you talking about?
The time you turned into a dinosaur and ate someone.
What?
Dinosaurs.
You guys talk all the time about helping people. This might actually be the first time in your life you can.
By what? Killing people?
Yes!
Tell me I mean anything to you. Tell me you got better to do. Tell me I'm the one disfigured like the mad caress that triggers. Show me I mean anything to you. Show me I mean anything to you.
The Velocipastor.
That's insane, Doug. God does not want people dead.
Oh, I think God wants a lot of people dead.
I didn't have time to watch this because we just were talking about it yesterday. I posted it. One of my friends happened to post it on Facebook, so I shared it with y'all too, and they were able to watch it in time. I had to throw chicken nuggets on my kids to keep them alive, so I didn't have time. But based on the trailer, it looks amazing. So what do y'all think?
Well, I had watched it. I had watched it. Like I said, I had watched it, and I was considering it for my ugly, and I do enjoy it. But it's kind of like that line I was talking about. I feel like this movie really knows it's trying to make a bad movie, and they really lean into that. It's kind of like Birdemic and The Room were great because those people really thought they were making a good movie, and then Birdemic 2 was terrible because they knew they were making a bad movie at that point, right? So I feel like this movie, it toes the line, but it kind of slips into being too self-aware and too over the top. But it's a really short movie. It's only like an hour and 5 minutes or an hour and 10 minutes or something. But it does make me laugh. There's a lot of goofy things. I love the performances, actually. I think the acting from the two leads is great. The main guy, he kind of reminds me of like Benedict Cumberbatch and Guy Pearce a little bit. And the lady reminds me of Jennifer Lawrence. So what do you think, Kelly?
Oh, I agree on all counts. I agree about the Jennifer Lawrence, and I would have added in a little dash of Lily Sobieski, your favorite person, Mark. Especially at the end, there's a ninja fighting sequence where she's wearing, I looked away, I don't know if this was already in the trailer or not, but she's wearing this like black unitard with a deep V plunge neckline, and it reminds me of what Lily Sobieski wears in Never Been Kissed. Anyway, this movie was insane, and I vacillated between loving it and hating it. In the beginning, I was like, I had a very strong negative reaction. I was like, I don't want to do it. I don't want to finish it. But then I did, and I was glad I did because it was very bizarre, but it was funny. So the funniest thing, so I started this, I barely had enough time to watch it right before the podcast. So it was what was it? It was 8:50. There were 9 minutes left in the movie, and Zach and I were watching it together, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I need to go set up the Zoom call. And so I'm just gonna I was like, is it okay if I leave it on in the background and I'll just hear like what's going on for the last few minutes and it'll be fine? And he was like, okay. So I come into my office, I turn everything on, and then I hear all manner of craziness happening on the TV. And Zach is like, he's like, like, you're gonna want to see this. And so I go in.
Well, the climax of the movie is in the last like 6 minutes of it. It's crazy. Like a lot happens.
In the time that I had gone, he had they were doing the ninja battle. He had transformed back into a velociraptor, and we had not previously seen him in his velociraptor form. We had just seen him like kind of hulking out and changing into it, but it was just obviously a man in like a fabric suit with an
like
Igor style hump. Yeah, and he's like walking around like this. It looked absolutely ridiculous. And Zach was like, "There's no possible way that I could have conveyed this to you. You just had to see it."
I don't know. I didn't see it, and I'm laughing my butt off here. That sounds amazing.
It's really awesome.
It was ridiculous.
So, can I ask just a matter of business here? Are we allowing ourselves to ever like rage quit a movie and just like decide not to power through it?
I don't know. No,
I bring it up because Charles's picks. He thinks they're going to be super terrible. We don't want.
We're not going to. If we do that rule, it's got to be after you watch my movies.
Yeah, because we had a guest host. I can't remember if it was Dr. Mike or Topher, but he was like, "Yeah, I just didn't finish it."
I think it was Topher.
What movie was that?
I don't even remember, but yeah.
That was funny. Okay. All right. Well, I am waiting with bated breath, Charles, to hear your picks.
Yeah, so mine it's going to be for October, and I've teased it a lot. As you guys know, you're probably sick of it. Not only on this podcast, but I think I've talked about it on the other podcasts I do. So I want to ask.
I kind of don't even want to give you the satisfaction of reacting to whatever it's going to be. I'm just going to sit here like.
No, I want the satisfaction. Right. You give me the satisfaction. I crave it.
I know you do.
No, I crave it. Don't do that to me. Don't torment me. So, but I would say, well, one, do you guys have any guesses at all?
No. Your hints were too abstruse.
Nothing. Okay. All right. Okay. Are you ready then?
Yes.
Okay. So. The genre I want to do for October, for Halloween, for spookiness, torture porn.
Oh, no. Is it?
I'm watching Kelly.
Is there going to be a Saw?
Charles.
No. What's up, Kelly? Give me a reaction.
Nothing over here. Do elaborate.
So the movies are Blood-Sucking Freaks from 1976. Ichi the Killer from 2001, and Hostel from 2005. So no Saw movies on this list.
Wow, 2005. Okay, I gotta watch Hostel again.
I believe it's 2005. Am I right?
Okay, now just for any listeners who may not understand the terminology, it's not actually pornographic. You just mean that it's like so much torture. It's like meant to hit that button in our heads that releases the dopamine.
And it doesn't even necessarily have. I don't think it has to actually involve torture. It's just that the movies are so over the top graphic and their violence towards people that it's almost like you're loving the violence and the gore. It's almost like pornography for those people, like a fetish almost. And you know it's kind of a the director of Hostel, your favorite. It's Eli Roth, if you guys don't remember, but he directed Cabin Fever. But he didn't actually like the term because it's a critic that actually gave that term speaking about Hostel. And so, some filmmakers don't actually think it's a true genre. And some believe that it's only like a certain amount of years. And so I'm kind of cheating that by including Blood-Sucking Freaks in this because it's from the 70s, way before that term was ever coined. But yeah. So those are my picks, though.
Well, I'll say this, Charles. That is not at all where I thought it was going. So you did surprise me.
Where did you think it was going? That's what I'm curious about.
I don't know. I don't know what to think. I thought it was gonna be something like these two ugly picks, like some category that was just so off the wall, bad, terrible, like a bad movie. I didn't think you wouldn't want to watch it because it was so disgusting, kind of thing. So we shall see.
All right, you'll have to. You got to sit through the movies. As I said, my wife has made me apologize in advance because she can't sit through them. So.
Yeah, but she's different.
Well, watch the movie.
She also cusses. She also cusses anytime there's a jump scare in any movie. I feel like her threshold's lower than ours.
You've trained us.
Yeah. Well, have you heard of the other two movies at all?
No. So what was the second one? It starts with the I, right?
Ichi the Killer from 2001. That's a Japanese film.
How do you spell it? Ichi.
ICHI. It's
okay.
Takashi Miike is the director. And then Bloodsucking Freaks from 1976.
Kelly says, I couldn't watch Bloodsucking Freaks. It made me feel too icky at the beginning. It's so bad. ...
Or maybe
full of
ugly.
trepidation, even just thinking about it.
Yeah. It might be my good one, too. I mean...
And I wonder, this will be interesting in terms of the guessing your picks, because I don't know how you might feel about Hostel. How good you think it is or not. So that's what I'm looking forward to is trying to guess which one's which.
I want a full report when you guys watch them. I want you to text me. I want to hear reactions just to see, because I'm really excited.
Have you seen Hostel, Kelly?
Mm-mm.
Oh, it's okay.
No,
it's pretty rough.
I've seen the first, I think, 2 Saw movies, but I think those are the only movies of this genre that I have ever seen. So it will be new to me.
All right. I don't know how to feel. I feel icky, I think. Icky or itchy, I don't know. Itchy.
Well, and then we
okay.
So we got that coming up next month. This month on the 23rd, I believe. 2 weeks from now. Topher and I are going to be doing our next episode of 50/50, and it's the Blade Master and American History X.
Oh.
And then also in October, we're going to be starting 31 Days of Horror, of course, on the 1st, Friday the 13th themed, and we're going to do we're going to start another Here and There series. Kelly and Topher and I are going to do one over the Hannibal Lecter books and movies. So that'll be coming up too. So we got a lot of good stuff coming up.
Yeah. Oh, fun fact, the Mandela effect. He never says hello, Clarice in the movie.
Right. I've heard that. Yeah. It's kind of like the Luke, I am your father.
Yeah. Yeah. All right. Cool. Got a lot of good content coming your way, people. Especially that 31 Days of Horror.
Especially torture porn.
Yeah, that'll be.
Especially that, yes.
So we're doing that early October, the first Wednesday in October.
Yeah, and then
that episode.
then October 21st is the Here and There. So
nice. Alrighty, good times.
Well, awesome picks, Mark.
Thank you.
That was a good.
Well, we got to give Charles some credit for the Tammy and the Dinosaur. Or Tammy and the
I'm
T-Rex,
so thrilled you picked that one. I was hoping because, like I said, that was the whole reason I would have done dinosaurs anyway. So
nice.
I think that one was up there for me with like a talking cat and Fantastic Four and gosh.
I haven't laughed this.
My favorite.
I think it was uglier than Velocipastor. So, like I said, it was kind of a toss-up. I was going back and forth between those two, which is funny that Mark mentioned it because those were my two that I.
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, I think I like Tammy and the T-Rex more.
Yeah, me too, for sure.
Nice. Our girl Denise. Okay, well, everybody, as always, you can catch us live on Facebook or listen to the replay on iTunes, Spotify, Google Play, and YouTube by searching Good Bad Podcast, all one word, or head over to our website, itsjustawesome.com. But wherever you check us out, please be sure to subscribe because it really does help. And I have been Mark.
And I have been Kelly.
And as always, I'm Charles, and have a good one.
Thanks
guys.
Bye.